They say the night hides more than shadows. It hides the truth.
Welcome to Mr. Haunting Whispers,
Where real crimes, true horrors, and restless spirits speak through the silence. Listen closely, because sometimes the whispers are real.
Every small town has a story about what lies beneath the lake. Some say it's a ghost town. Others, a forgotten church, a place the water swallowed to keep the rest of us safe. In my hometown, that place was Merrow Lake, and we were told never to dive near the center. I used to think that was just small town superstition, until the summer I found the door. My name is David. I was 19, working part-time at a marina that mostly rented out paddle boats and kept the old diving gear locked up for insurance reasons. The boss, Bill, didn't like anyone swimming past the buoy line. Too deep, he'd say. Current pulls funny out there. But on windless days when the surface was still as glass, I could swear I saw something beneath. Long, pale shapes that didn't move like rocks or logs. That summer was hot, and boredom can make you curious. One August afternoon, I borrowed a tank and mask from the shed, telling myself I'd just take a quick look around the dock pilings. I remember the first shock of cold as I sank. The waist sound dropped away until all that was left was my breathing. At 20 feet, visibility turned to mist. But just as I was about to surface, something caught my eye. A straight line cutting through the silt below, too clean to be natural. I followed it down. At 40 feet, I saw it clearly. A doorway, wooden frame, intact but weathered pale as bone. No walls around it, just a door standing upright on the lake bed, half buried in muck. I thought it was a prop, maybe a prank from the old summer camp that used to sit by the shore. Still, curiosity pulled me closer. I ran my hand along the edge, rough but solid. When I tugged on the handle, it didn't move. But as I turned to go back up, I felt the water shift. A faint current curling through the hinges, pulling inward, like a breath being drawn from the other side. Then something tapped the glass of my mask. Once, twice, slow and deliberate. I kicked upward as fast as I could, breaking the surface in a panic. Bill saw me from the dock and yelled something about safety lines. I didn't explain. I just climbed out and told him there was debris under the lake. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then quietly, "You found the door, didn't you?" That night I couldn't sleep. The image of that frame, perfect, waiting, kept flashing behind my eyelids. When I finally drifted off, I dreamed of light coming through cracks in the wood and water pouring upward like rain in reverse. 2 days later, I went back, not to dive, just to look. But when I reached the dock, Bill was there again, staring out over the water with a cigarette trembling between his fingers. He told me to sit. Then he said something I've never repeated until now. "The town under the lake," he began, "was real. Merrow used to sit right where we're standing. 20 houses, a church, a sawmill. They flooded it in 1952 to make a reservoir. But not everyone left in time." I asked if he meant people drowned. He shook his head. "No, I mean they refused to leave." He told me the engineers had sealed the old well first, but a week before the flooding, divers reported hearing voices through the rock. Said the sound wasn't in the water, it was behind it. When they finally flooded the valley, the last thing anyone saw was the steeple disappearing under the surface, and a shimmer like heat spreading across the water. A month later, fishes started washing up blind. Bill stared at the lake as he spoke, like he could still see the outlines beneath. Then he said, almost to himself, "They built that door over the old church cellar." Said it wasn't a building you were supposed to walk into. It was a building meant to keep something from walking out. I didn't believe him, not really. But that night a storm rolled in, and around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of water dripping. At first I thought it was rain, but the window was shut. The sound was coming from the closet. When I opened it, my wetsuit was soaked, dripping lake water, even though I hadn't worn it since that dive. The mask hung beside it, fogged from the inside, and written in the condensation on the lens, one word: below. I didn't go back for a week. When I finally did, the lake looked different, darker, the water oddly still. Bill wasn't there. His truck was parked by the pier, keys still in the ignition. At first, I thought he was out fixing a buoy. Then I saw the air bubbles, steady, rhythmic, about 30 yards out. One diver. His rope line trailed into the depths, but when I pulled, it came up cleanly cut. They searched for him for days. No trace. Just his dive knife found lodged in a plank. The same pale wood I'd seen below. The marina closed the following week. They said the insurance company pulled coverage after another diver reported hearing knocking sounds under the dock supports. 3 knocks, always 3. I moved away the next month, but I still have dreams. In them, I'm underwater again, drifting in the dark, and far ahead I see light, a square of it, faintly glowing in the murk. The door. Sometimes it's open just a little, and from the other side I can hear a sound that isn't a voice, more like water remembering how to breathe. Last year I went back to visit my parents. The lake was lower than I remembered. Drought season, whole stretches of cracked mud where water used to be. Curiosity got the better of me. I walked down the exposed shoreline until I saw something pale jutting from the earth. It was a doorframe, the same one, half buried, half revealed, standing upright in the mud. There were no hinges anymore, no latch, just the imprint where they'd been. And when the wind blew across it, I could swear it sounded like a whisper. Below. That night, the local news ran a story. Strange sinkhole appears in Merrow Valley. Officials blame old foundations. They showed footage from a drone, a perfect circular depression in the middle of the dried lake bed. No sign of the door, but near the edge of the sinkhole, something caught the camera light, a reflection, a small rectangular window of water, still shimmering even though everything else was dry. And for a second, before the feed cut out, the surface rippled outward, not from something falling in, but from something pushing out. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I still hear it, that faint creak, the pressure equalizing as something opens beneath miles of dark water. I don't live near Merrow anymore, but every time it rains, I smell the lake, and I remember what Bill said before he disappeared. They built that door to keep something from walking out. Most people don't think about the way sound ages. Vinyl cracks, tapes warp, voices fade, but underneath the decay, there's always something left. Fragments of the air between words, the silence people forgot to record. I've spent most of my life listening to that silence. My name's Daniel, and I work as an audio archivist for a small historical preservation company. We restore old recordings, family reels, oral histories, police interviews, anything magnetic that still holds an echo of a human voice. It's not glamorous work, but there's something sacred about it, hearing someone speak decades after they've turned to dust. Until, one day, the dust spoke back. It began with a shipment from an estate auction. 15 unmarked reels found in the attic of an abandoned radio station upstate. The label on the box read simply, WZAR Broadcast Archives, 1963 to 1965. The building had burned down sometime in the 70s. Half the tapes were melted together, but a few survived. My job was to catalog and digitize whatever could still play. The first few reels were nothing special. Weather reports, old commercials, a talk show about highway safety. Then I found reel 7, no markings, just a faint grease pencil note on the leader tape. Session A, whisper test. I threaded it into the machine. At first it was just dead air, a low hum, microphone gain too high. Then faintly a voice, male, mid-40s. Testing 1, 2, whisper test. Recording begins at 11:58. A pause, then whispering, too soft to make out at first. I turned up the gain, adjusted the filters. Underneath the hiss, I could hear words forming. Female voice, barely audible. He's still listening. Then silence. I rewound and played it again, thinking it was a trick of the noise floor. Maybe bleed through from another track. But the whisper was clear. And when I checked the levels, something strange appeared. A spike that didn't correspond to any microphone input. It was as if the sound was being generated inside the tape itself. The next day, I ran the same reel through our digital cleaner. The voice came through sharper this time, and something new appeared. Between the test tones, faint rhythmic clicks, 3 at a time, evenly spaced. When I zoomed in on the waveform, I realized they weren't random. They formed a pattern, a pulse, almost like Morse code. I translated it. It spelled, "Listen back." I thought it was a coincidence until I checked the tape counter. The timestamp for that message was exactly 11:58, the same moment the announcer said he'd begun recording. I turned the reel backward, letting it play in reverse. That's when I heard it. Reverse audio, distorted. Daniel. I froze. My name. Except this tape was recorded in 1963. I spent the next week trying to replicate the glitch. I tested every reel in the box. Nothing unusual. Only reel 7 behaved like that. But late one night, after hours, I left it running while I stepped out for coffee. When I came back, the machine was still spinning. Even though the tape had run out, the capstan motor was whining against empty air, and over the speakers, faintly, someone was breathing. I shut everything off. The breathing stopped. When I switched the power back on, the counter had reset to 11:58. There shouldn't have been any recording at all. The tape was blank. Still, I pressed play. The whisper came again. Female voice. He's still listening. Then faintly behind it, my own voice. My voice, recorded. Is anyone there? Except I had never said that. I started having trouble sleeping. Every night around midnight, I'd hear the faint click of the tape reel in my mind. That rhythmic tick, tick, tick. And I'd wake to the sound of someone whispering near the playback monitors. At first, I thought it was stress. Then one morning, I found my office door ajar. Inside, the reel-to-reel was spinning. Unpowered, unplugged. On the tape counter, 11:58, I called the archives owner to tell him I was done working that batch. He just sighed. You got the whisper reel, didn't you? I asked what he meant. He said back in the 70s, when they'd first received materials from the WZAR site, 2 other archivists had quit after hearing phantom voices. They'd both described the same phrase. He's still listening. He told me one last thing before hanging up. They were trying to record silence. That was the experiment. A pure quiet broadcast to measure residual magnetic noise. But it wasn't quiet. They said something answered. I thought about that all night, and against every instinct, I went back one more time. I locked the door, turned off the lights, and pressed record. Is anyone there? I whispered. For a long time, nothing. Then, the faintest reply, whisper, always. When I stopped the reel, I noticed something odd. The counter had jumped ahead by exactly 5 minutes, as if I'd been recording longer than I thought. When I played it back, my own voice came through at first, then another sound, soft, wet, like someone breathing through a layer of dust. And behind it, dozens of other whispers, faint, tangled, overlapping, repeating one word, back. The power flickered, the room grew colder, and from the far side of the speakers I heard it. The same man from the original recording, only now his voice was right beside me. Male voice, whisper test. Recording begins at 11:58. Then in the silence that followed, the woman's voice returned. Clear this time. He's still listening. I looked at the counter, 11:58. Then my reflection in the monitor blinked. When I came to, the reel was still spinning. The counter showed 12:03. 5 minutes gone. The tape hissed softly as it ended. I reached for the stop button and realized the reel was moving backward on its own. A new voice emerged, my own voice on tape. Stop. Please stop. I pulled the plug from the wall. The reels kept turning. They found me asleep at my desk the next morning. The machine was cold. The tape was gone. In its place was a fresh reel, unlabeled. When I played it, it contained only static, and at the very end, a single word whispered in my own voice. Listen. The archive was shut down a month later after an electrical fire destroyed the server room. Investigators said it was likely a short circuit from antiquated wiring. I don't remember leaving the building that night, but sometimes when I close my eyes, I can still hear the faint rhythm of that counter. 3 clicks, pause, 3 clicks again. And when I listen to silence too long, I hear breathing, not mine. He's still listening.
You've been listening to Mr. Haunting Whispers, where every truth leaves a scar. If the story unsettled you, good. That means you were listening. Subscribe and stay close to the dark, because the next whisper might be for you.